Good evening, sir.
Yo, yo, it's time for a special episode of the Beef and Bitcoin podcast. So what do we call this? Pump day or something like
Pump day.
that? Bounce
I
bounce
guess
off
I
the
guess we're
bottom
just gonna
day?
start doing pump day and dump day and I guess we just kind of decided that tonight or afternoon, depending on your time zone, we were just like, well, might as well record because Bitcoin just went up like 15%. So I might as well just shoot the shit about this for a little bit and maybe discuss and talk about theories, maybe conspiracy theories about why it went up.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting. I woke up with I guess more DMs than usual, so I was assuming something had started happening today, and then I guess right around maybe lunchtime or so, or maybe earlier than that, I forget. We really started moving, and it's funny because the memes get more engagement, I get more DMs, the story views go up, and what do we always say, right? Price drives adoption,
Yeah.
and I think the proof is in the Satoshis there, because every time Bitcoin moves either up or down, most of the time when it moves up, people are interested again and DMing me and asking a bunch of questions, asking me, when's the next dip coming? Should I wait? Should I buy right now? What do you think's going to happen? It's the same thing over and over again. And I guess it should make sense, right? Because we've been just hanging out at that 7K range. It seems like just forever.
Yeah, for a while.
The days have just been running into each other. Nothing's really happening. It's just
It's been
very
a slow, bloody decline
dull.
for like a week here, so. And I have it pretty zoomed in just to show you how immense this pump was on a lower time frame. Because somebody messaged me this morning about Bitcoin and like, am I buying? Am I doing what? And I think it was like I looked at the chart and it was like 6,500, and I was just like, meh. I was just like,
Right.
and then like I looked back later and I was like, oh, okay. And I don't think I looked like the rest of the day. I just like, so here we are up 15% or down a little bit, but like I guess the point of this episode is just to theorize why it's happening. I think part of it is definitely when you look at the higher time frame, there's support here. I mean, we were right around where we bounced last time, around 65, 6,400, and it dipped a little below, which is classic of Bitcoin. Bitcoin will always go just a little above or a little below that support to liquidate all the shorts or longs, and then it will just burst up like it did today. That is stereotypical Bitcoin.
Right.
I mean, it literally, I can't tell you. Like, when you look at this chart over here, like when we dumped back in May, where we dumped it like a shit ton, and then we kept going. We went from the bottom of 6,000 all the way up to 14K, basically. It's nothing new.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and you can see it plain as day, kind of on the chart. And not that I do too much technical analysis these days, but what you're really seeing here is the emotions of what people are going through, kind of, on the chart, priced into the chart, and that's kind of what the chart's describing. And it's funny because I can, just since I have like just barely enough reach that I kind of think I have a good sense of, from a retail standpoint, who's like interested in the market. And I can tell because it's usually, I was getting DMs all of this past week, especially when the price started going down, of sell now, sell now, sell now. Seriously, from
Yeah.
the same person who was saying that. And I was like, man, you're a really good counter indicator. And it's funny because he's been saying it for a while, and especially once it started dipping again, of course he's back up in my DMs telling me sell now, get out now before it's too late, all this stuff. And that's the emotions playing out on the chart, and then I'm getting confirmation of that via DM. So
He told you again, like tonight or like later this afternoon
Yeah.
after it happened. That's like
Yeah,
it just moved up
yesterday.
like 15%, and yeah, it's gonna sell off like 1%. That's not abnormal. I think
Yeah.
like when you have a big move like this, yeah, if you're trying, I mean, well, selling or being short would be. I'm not saying it'd be unwise, but I'm just saying be wary because Bitcoin can go really far, really fast, and since there's no regulation on it or whatever you want to say, it can move. Like we saw, like what was it in? When was that? End or October, where we went up like 30% or 40% in the span of a day or two. I mean, it was
Yeah.
ridiculous. I remember it was like it started in the morning, and it shows over 2 daily candlesticks, but that's because the daily candlestick ends at like 6 p.m. Eastern time or something like that, or 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
And it began in the morning on a Friday and finished at night on a Friday. It was insane. You know, it was like 775 to 10,200.
Yeah, it's just wild. It's, you know, and this guy DM'd me before the pump, right? So it was mid dump, and he's telling me to sell, and it's just good because you can see that, and it's just so clear when engagement's down and all this stuff. You just really know. And today everybody came out of the woodwork. We have the fear and greed index was at, you know, fairly fearful, I guess you could say.
Yeah, 25 hours ago it was
yeah
bad.
it's just I don't know, it's fun to actually look at this kind of stuff and see what happens immediately following that. I mean, it's like it's just like when what's his name, Brian Kelly, was telling people how to buy Ripple at $3, and then like that was literally the day of the top.
Yeah.
It's just things like that where it's a little bit more than coincidental almost.
CNBC couldn't miss out on the crypto craze.
No,
they had like
really
a crypto desk for a while. You remember that?
I do remember, yeah.
And then of course it died off as the interest waned.
Totally. You want to put up the meme of the
the meme?
Yeah, or
we'll go
either
the
one,
meme.
either one.
The meme.
Yeah.
Here's the meme. It's a bunch of
this is everyone today, pretty much.
If you can see it, what would you describe this as for our listeners? Is it, they're not Wojaks, are they? Are they Wojaks?
Yeah. Is that what they're called? Yeah, I've heard that before.
It's
like,
sure
you know,
Wojak.
the green kind of Pepe meme looking people. But yeah,
they're
Wojaks.
Wojaks.
Yeah.
So if you look up Wojak, if you're watching this, if you don't know what that is, just look up Wojak meme, and it's a bunch of green Wojaks hugging each other with like little stock charts going up in green numbers and green percentage numbers.
Yeah. It's really funny. It's really funny.
Dude,
but
some of these Wojak memes are fucking...
they're hysterical. But
you're looking at my screen.
yeah, I can see it. The green one was just with everybody, you know, hugging and smiling and stuff like that. Everyone, it's funny because that's really how people feel, like the emotions that run through people's just minds, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin might be one of the only things where people really act like that and have their emotions like super high when it comes to this kind of stuff, because like there's a lot online, right? People are trying to get rich with this stuff, you know. It's like everyone's excited about it when it moves. That, like, at the end of the day, that's what people are looking for.
And on top of that, Bitcoin moves 24/7. There's no days off on Bitcoin. It's not like futures market. It's not like, you know, typical equities market or commodities, you name it. Those have days off, you know, and you don't get that with Bitcoin.
No, you don't. And I love that it's a 24-hour market. Imagine if this traded like during normal trading hours. We'd still be like midway through the bear market, I feel like, because like just not enough time would have gone by.
Yeah,
this thing is just moving constantly, and it's I love 24-hour markets. It's probably one of my favorite things that's ever come out of just Bitcoin in general. It's like the same amount of liquidity all 24 hours a day. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of the alts jumped a healthy percentage too in terms of USD. Yeah, it looks like Ethereum jumped 10%. Yeah, which makes sense. Anytime Bitcoin goes up like this, it usually drags the alts because they trade against Bitcoin. That's what people forget. But I'm sure FBTC probably not terrible, but not good.
Yeah, it still dropped a little bit. When I look at the ETH BTC chart, if you can like look at like a weekly or monthly,
I'll zoom out. Yeah, there you go.
That's kind of where that's my gauge of just alts in general, kind of where they are relative to Bitcoin in terms of how much interest there is in them. You know, if you look at when it was going crazy in the beginning of 2018, that was like full. Well, that's like mid into 17, and then you have the big, you know, run up in like literally those last 2 weeks in December.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, and people forget Ethereum still was going up in USD value during this time. Like it bottomed out at like 180 or something. It was still going up, but Bitcoin marched from that like 1800 low all the way to 20K.
Right.
So it just wrecked every alt.
Yep, and that's where you can. That's kind of my indicator of what's going on in alt land
Alt
and
land.
who's interested. Like, is there anybody thinking about it or talking about it? And what I look at when I see this is just that's. It looks like it's coming to an end. Maybe not for good, but it certainly doesn't look so great. And I just think so much more has happened with Bitcoin in the last 2.5 years since I guess we started looking at it.
I mean, we
And
talked about Ethereum last episode, and it's like,
yeah, they're forking themselves to death. It's like you can see these projects are starting to kind of run their course, right? It's eventually, I'm not saying they're all not going to be around or trading at, like similar to pink sheets or something like that, but I just I don't know how lindy some of these alts are and that they're still going to be around in 10 years. Maybe they are, but I just don't see it being anything life changing. That's
and
for sure.
another thing on top of that, just because there's a price doesn't mean there's a bid or ask.
Right.
Or
No,
bid,
that's a really good
most
point.
importantly, if you're holding the bag. Because a lot of these alts are just, there's no volume. Like we talked about it probably more than a few episodes ago. Like maybe besides the few major alts like Ethereum, Ripple, Litecoin, maybe, and like Tether, of course, and a couple other things, there's no volume, like at all.
Right.
All that volume is in Bitcoin. And I think the alts that have volume, you'll see, like, are the ones that trade on BitMEX. Like, ADA trades on BitMEX, which is Cardano. Then you have Tron trades on BitMEX, which is fucking ridiculous, but it does. Bitcoin Cash trades on BitMEX. So I assume that, obviously helps drive some of the, liquidity,
yeah.
exactly. And
Well, no. I think you bring up a good point because a lot of times people don't think about what the utility of a money is, and it really is liquidity. Like, are you able to get rid of that thing as money for something else in return? And it's not a surprise that Bitcoin has the majority of the liquidity compared to all other cryptocurrencies, and that's not. I would be surprised if it were equally distributed, like everybody was interested in all of these different things in the same amount. It just wouldn't really make sense. And you can see that liquidity kind of being sucked out of other areas and starting to move its way into Bitcoin. And you can tell because that kind of always is the first one to jump, right?
yeah. Besides for, I think there's a few times, or more than a few times in 2018 and even 2019 where we saw alts just kind of do their own thing. Like you sent me that Raven chart the other day where Raven was one of them. There was recently Matic, excuse me, that did that incredible run and then dumped like the whole run in the span of like 15 minutes. Or it was like 45 minutes. But I was going to mention when you were mentioning about liquidity and that ability to, be able to exchange, like the US dollar is a perfect example. Like if I went to the store and I wanted to buy, 2 pounds of New York strip steak, let's say it costs like $20 or something, I don't know if that's the correct amount. If I gave him a $20 bill, I gave the butcher a $20 bill, he's going to accept it. Now, obviously it'd be tougher with Bitcoin, but there's probably a certain amount of Bitcoin if you offered him, like if I offered, with Bitcoin at what is it, 70 something right now, 7K. If I offered them, 0.03 Bitcoin, which would be way, way more than that $20, they probably would accept it just because of the fact that you'd be like, you could tell the dudes, like, you can sell this on Coinbase, and then you'd have what, $200, $300 at least,
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of Bitcoin, I'm sure, if you offer people a premium, they would take it over a US dollar.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
It's just having to go through the hassle.
Yeah, right. It, and that's just the demand for money, right? If the money isn't being demanded for goods and services, then it's not going to be useful as a money. And that's where you can see kind of the different characteristics of a money, whether it be a medium of exchange, a unit of account, or a store of value. I think Bitcoin has elements of all three of those characteristics. I mean, I guess you could make the argument for each one by one if you really wanted to, but the point is that it needs to serve those functions either at different times or all at the same time to become like a money. And I think that's kind of just what we're seeing here as more time goes by and you have, what is this, like the third or fourth long bear market? Let's see, like 20, after a
I
little
should
bit
go
in
to that. There's that
2011,
one.
then like 2013,
This
and
is
then
like
now. So
this is
we're
probably
on
the
like the
best chart to
third
look at
ish.
it. This BLX
With like
one,
a
the Brave
yeah,
Liquid. That's the
Brave
longest
New
one
World.
I have at least.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can you log that?
I'll log it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's like one, two, third one, I guess you could say, right? So in between 2011 and 2012, then from 2014 all the way through 2016, and then basically January 2018 until now. And there's been obviously a ton of pullbacks in between, but uh, I was listening to somebody talk the other day about you need to have like seen two bulls and one bear market to be like vindicated, to be like, all right, this thing's actually not going to die. Like you've seen enough. So anybody who was here in 2013 rode the first bull market and then survived somehow and stuck around all through 2014, 2015, and then into 2016 and rode out 2017, I'm sure they're not really worried about this bear market, more so than other people who got in 2017, because this would be their first like bear.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this red line here marks the halving, or right around the halving. Basically, it's not going to be exactly precise, but it's within probably a day or two of it. So that's just some food for thought. Yeah, it's going to be interesting here. We have QE4 going on, even though they won't admit it. The largest bailout since the financial crisis is going on. And as you and I have been talking about, no one talks about it. The mainstream media hasn't mentioned it because all they talk about, at least in the U.S., is impeachment or anything that isn't, like as I mentioned also, the Afghanistan papers aren't being talked about, where we'd spend $1 trillion over there. There's and it's just like the nonsense of like, this should be every journalist's biggest thing is, what the hell is going on with the Fed, in Wall Street? Why are we throwing billions of dollars at the overnight, market, funding market? And obviously there's a lack of liquidity. And we talked about J.P. Morgan, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically they went from like T-bills to long-term bonds. Is that basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the liquidity
basically
is
just
completely has sapped up. And maybe the conspiracy theorists in us could say like maybe they're trying to crash the market before the 2020 election. I mean, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But like, it'd be interesting to see. That would be detrimental no matter what if if the stock market lost 30-40% of its value by the time we even get close to the 2020 election. There'd be no way around it.
Right.
Like it felt like the world, as we said, it felt like the world was ending in December last year when like Steve Mnuchin, the Secretary of Treasury, made the phone call with a bunch of heads of banks like Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, etc. on Christmas Eve last year because the world was literally ending. Like I went to Christmas Eve. I'm like, holy shit, we're finally being vindicated. And then on the 26th when the market opened up, we dumped lower, and it was like, holy shit. And then the bounce was fucking incredible that day. It was the most magnificent thing I've ever seen. Like, we went up, like, most stocks went up 8 to 10%, which is absolutely insane.
No, it's wild, and nobody talks about this stuff. And I like that we bring it up because while I guess we do shoot the shit about Bitcoin and macro geopolitical issues and stuff like that. I mean, somebody's got to at least fucking talk about this stuff. I think in hindsight, you'll be able to point back to that Mnuchin call Christmas Eve 2018 as I don't know. I think people will point to it and be like, we should have known then that something was up, or I don't know. I think it will just be more obvious in hindsight.
Yeah, I mean, if we keep saying it, it feels like we're so close. Like when I look at this, I mean, I feel like we still have a little bit of a blow off to go. We still have to kill any bears left. Just completely capitulate all the bears, flood in the rest of the retail money, And I think when I start, once we start, or at least you or I start hearing more people talk about, maybe their 401ks, how well they're doing, about buying certain stocks, I think then we'll kind of get a good sentiment feel.
Right. No, for sure.
And maybe at Christmas we'll see family members talking about it. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I have a feeling I won't hear about it all that much, unless something absolutely insane happens and it goes to like 20K or something in the next week and a half or something. Other than that, I'm not suspecting. But I feel like next holiday season it will be a topic again. If it's not, then that means we're still
in the bear market.
We're still like in a bear market, or nobody gives a shit and the price is whatever it's at. But I have a feeling if we're at a new all-time high come holidays 2020, then it'll be like another Thanksgiving conversation and holiday conversation for sure. But I think I'll luck out and for this year and won't have to bring it up to anybody.
I don't know. It's someone's gonna mention to me. I know. Unfortunately, there's no way around it.
Yeah, it just is what it is.
We haven't mentioned this yet, but Peter LeBrant. I don't know when did he post this tweet? He posted this. So it says 1:30 p.m. Eastern time today. So right after the bounce, and basically stated, Bitcoin, bottom here. He shows a log chart of the parabolas, and shows this long-term trend line where it bounces. For those that don't know, Peter LeBrant's like this chart / trading god who's been trading since before like most of us or anyone who's probably listening to this podcast has been alive. He's been trading since the 70s when they physically fucking put candlesticks on paper because they didn't have computers to do it. So he likes to say he's been trading since the time of Jesus. I love some of his. Have you ever seen those posts by him?
Yeah, he's a funny guy. I do like him. I do like him a lot.
He talks a lot of shit too.
No, he does.
Do you remember who did he call out? Who was the other old trader he called out?
Ugly old goat.
He called someone out on Twitter about being like he called out Northman trader. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
It was like the battle of the boomers.
Yeah. And I bet you Northman trader's probably like 30 years younger than
Peter. Yeah, Northman trader's probably in his 50s. I bet.
It's funny though. You listen to some of Peter's tweets that are Bitcoin related, just even outside of the technical analysis piece. He does understand it. He definitely gets it. He's not just speculating to speculate on it. I've seen him make comments about altcoins, like just his monetary theory and monetary history. I think is probably pretty strong. So I think he could probably pitch this to somebody if he really had to, without any technical. So he's a smart dude, and he's just been around markets for so long. He's
seen the cycles.
He just knows a thing or two.
He's been through so much.
Yeah, he's seen a lot. So it's interesting, even if you don't want to take his commentary from a technical standpoint, even just listening to him of the experience he's seen in just market phenomena and goods and services like being adopted by mainstream. I mean, he's traded all of these markets, so he's seen gold and silver, and he's seen things like Apple and Microsoft and how technology has been priced into the market as it becomes adopted, like living through just the internet and all this. Like, he's seen some shit. So it's interesting, just to someone who's been around markets for so long, to just watch them and listen to them opine on Bitcoin is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and he definitely has a solid idea of emotions and when sentiment kind of goes one way or the other way. Like, he's been calling this equity bull market to keep going and just been shitting on bears the whole time. And he's right. Like, I think he called for like, I wonder what he called for, like 3250 S&P now.
I think I remember him saying something like that. And it's funny because I was watching that tweet, and I can't remember how long ago it was, but I almost didn't believe him just because I'm so like obviously bearish on global macro and equities. I'm just like, I can't believe it keeps going up. And he just has a weird way of being around for so long and just reading it very well, even with all of the QE and repo markets and everything that would point to bearish scenarios. And he kind of he just tells it like it is.
Yeah, I mean, here's a good tweet. He says, some people say that both gold and equities cannot possibly go up together. Maybe they are right. All I know is that every sacred cow relationship between markets in my career has eventually gone to a slaughterhouse. And there's a perfect example. Again, he's been trading for 40 years, and he's when things there's a high correlation between two assets, whether it's inverse or just correlated. for a decade or 2 decades, people live and die by that, and that obviously wrecks them. And so, oh my God, look at his target.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Oh.
I mean, he might be right. We're about to print, what, 500 billion in the next 4 weeks?
And then we got to remember is that can happen in the span of 2 or 3 months. I mean, if we really start to melt up, it's not that far away. It's all of, in reality, it's maybe all of, I'll even just do the percentage for it, maybe 5%, 10% max.
Oh, that's it?
Well, maybe a little more. I was wrong, completely wrong. Looks like 15%, which is quite a bit.
Well, whatever, 15-20%. Yeah, if in the stock market, that seems like a lot. For me, like, I don't care about 20% when I think about Bitcoin, but that's a shitload for the global
we just moved that much.
It's like
Bitcoin
insane.
Just moved that much in a day.
Yeah. Right. That's, I mean, when you're talking about trillions of dollars in assets, like, that's insane, though, a 15-20% move in equities. And, like, just from a global macro standpoint, like, none of that surprises me anymore. Like, well, of course not. Why not, right?
And I think when you start to zoom out in this chart, it's just like it's going places. And it literally, like, even without the trade deal doesn't matter. It's clear as day. Like, they can say what they want. And honestly, I don't think they want to make it. Why would you make a trade deal when you can every time tweet we're close to making a deal and the market will go up? And, you can throw Kudlow. You can throw Larry Kudlow on CNBC and say the market's going to go up, or not the market's going to go up. That we're in talks with the Chinese negotiators, and we should have something next Monday, and voila, S&P. Literally, you zoom in and look at like the 1 minute or 5 minute chart, and it goes up like in the span of 5 minutes. You go up like 1%, and you're just like, what? And people don't think it's a big deal, but there's people that are trading leverage or options out there, and they just made a fuck ton or lost everything. So, it's pretty interesting. I'm curious to see, because I think at this point, I'm pretty just set on just watching this go.
Oh no,
much higher
for sure. I don't. It's like it's been too long for me now. Like, if I were going to. Well, I'm not even interested in equities anymore, but I do hold them in my 401k, my retirement accounts, and this and that, like every hardworking person with a Vanguard 401k. And you just have to sit back and laugh at this kind of stuff. But I think I might be like the 1% of the 1% who even cares. Like, I don't think anyone else is even looking at this right now, except for like one dude in my office who's trying to retire in the next couple of years. He needs stonks to keep going up.
He needs them to plateau or keep going.
But I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's not like I'm retiring anytime soon. Like, stonks are gonna do what they're gonna do. But it makes me fucking nervous when I see this stuff. But I also remember in 2016. Yeah, that right there, right in like February 2016. I'll never forget. I was at the doctor's office and I was reading, I think probably some
Bloomberg
Motley Fool article or something. I don't know, something like that, talking about the fear and greed index there, and it was like super fearful, and he's like, I'm longing now. And I remember thinking to myself, pretending I'm some sort of trader or something, I'm like, it seems like we're kind of toppy here. And this was 2015 had just happened, and it was looking like things weren't going so hot there in the beginning of 2016, and then stonks doubled from there. Like, they just ran for good. And now I feel like I'm in that same position. It's like, all right, well, I know we're gonna QE another 500 billion in the next 4 weeks anyway. Do you risk it and say, I'll get a little bit more exposure to stonks, or do you say, like, I just have to sit back and watch because I know the show might not go on forever, and at this point, like, I'm exposed enough as it is.
I haven't looked at Tesla. Holy fuck.
Yeah, Tesla new all-time highs, man. 400 tomorrow.
Jesus fuck.
Yeah, stonks are wild.
I did not know that Tesla was on that. I haven't looked at Tesla's chart in like probably like a week or two. It's just because I haven't been watching that many charts besides a handful. Holy shit.
Stonks.
Dude, if Tesla ends up being like an Enron, this will be one of the most magnificent collapses ever. I only say that, and I there's very few things I agree on Elon with. I think my personal opinions, I think he's just he just sells snake oil. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of his cars, but I will say that I know someone who has a new Tesla, and the thing is fucking sick. I don't personally like electric cars, but it is fucking dope. It looks really good. I want to say it's like a P90D. It's ridiculously fast. It's really cool. But
oh no, they're insanely fast. Yeah.
But I just think like the Cybertruck's a perfect example, or they're a semi truck. I think they're just snake oiling. Like they're just putting these projects way out in the distance. Are they ever going to come to fruition? I don't know. And then
it's interesting. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was going to say and I might have sent you this a while ago. Like they had so many cars that were supposed to be delivered, never delivered to people, and then they wouldn't offer them loaner cars because the people would sell their car expecting the Tesla to show up, and then it'd get delayed and get delayed more, and delayed more. And they'd already put the money down and everything for the Tesla and bought it, and it would never show up. And like I think the Texas Attorney General opened up like an investigation against Tesla because of it. Like they're just their service was poor on that end.
Yeah, I was actually watching something on Real Vision the other night. This journalist who had did like investigative journalism in business and finance specifically, and has written about Enron, has also written about Tesla and the whole Solar City stuff. And she was talking about what went on in Buffalo, New York, and how it's kind of very hush hush, and there was a lot of tax money that was taken to kind of build there and all this stuff. And it's funny because, where I am in California, I mean, there's a shitload of Teslas around. I'm not kidding when it's like a very common car for me to see. So I know that somewhere somebody's actually buying them. And then on the other hand, I put my skeptical fiat ruins everything hat on, and I look at things like Tesla and like I do wonder, there's bad press isn't the right word, but there's a lot of issues with how many CFOs have left the company, accounting issues, other, suits that have gone against them. And it's really difficult because if you've ever driven one of the cars, like you've said, it's like, all right, well, the Model X and at least the Model S, they are very cool cars. They're stupid fast. It's a whole different take on electric cars and just cars in general. So maybe there's something there when it comes to electric cars. Maybe there isn't, but it also doesn't seem like it can be a long sustaining profitable business just on the fact of selling vehicles, right? It seems like there's always been, either additional funding coming in or tax money or other stuff like that, where you don't wonder if a business like this could have survived on its own because there was actually demand for the vehicles. And that's where I try to put my fiat Bitcoin hat on when I think about this kind of thing.
I mean, and what's ridiculous is like car companies that make money like Ford, GM, Fiat Chrysler, etc., are worth less, like in terms of market cap value, than Tesla currently. When Tesla still doesn't make money. Its
right.
EPS is negative 4.76. It's mind-boggling, and that's where like you get these people who are fundamental. You're a fundamental guy, and you're just looking at this like holy. And it's been like this for a decade now, basically. And this is what distortion of the money supply does. I think if we wanted to wrap this episode on one thing, distortion of the money supply allows things just to get extremely ridiculous. Irrational exuberance is probably the best term for it.
Definitely. And I think just today's kind of Bitcoin pump was a reminder to me of all the emotions that come along with asset prices that you hold going up. So it applies to anything, stonks, Bitcoin, anybody who's still holding shit coins. It's such an emotional roller coaster for everybody. So, strap up. The halving's coming up in 5 or 6 months now.
It's not far away.
It's not far away. So that'll be, we're going to get to see, hopefully by year-end 2020, year-end 2021, everyone's going to be talking about stock to flow model. We'll know if it made any sense at all or if it was just a bunch of horse shit. Of course, my fingers are crossed that Plan B fucking nailed it, and we'll all be super happy come 2021. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. What was this, episode 65 here?
Yeah, I forget. I actually have
It's
all the
60.
other episodes numbered already, so I might just put this one out as like bonus episode or something. I don't know.
265. Come on.
All right,
We'll
do
just.
65.
All you have to do is change a digit.
Yeah. We can do it like
This is
that.
episode 65, guys. Come on. This was a full episode. It just was us slinging,
Yep.
not really a topic besides Bitcoin Pump, and then just kind of mashing it all together here for fun.
Yep.
So thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Comment if you feel free. DM us if you want us to talk about topics. There's also Apple Podcasts. We would love ratings and reviews and subscriptions there. And we are also on Spotify. So just please give us a listen. If you think our content's worth listening to, please share it with people. That's all we ask. We don't do advertisements or anything. We just kind of do this because we enjoy talking about it.
That's right. All right. Peace.
Peace.